Every winter, King Arthur and everybody in his castle took a vacation. They left the castle Camelot and went to the castle Carlisle. This is at midwinter when the days were short and the nights were long. And they did the same thing we all do at midwinter vacation. They would eat and drink and sing and gossip, and King Arthur's favorite thing to do, actually, was to go hunting. He loved to go hunting deer with his bow and his arrow and his horse with his horsemen and knights. And one morning, King Arthur left the castle Carlisle with his knights on his horse with his bow and arrow, and as soon as they entered the forest, he saw something he hadn't seen since he was a child. It was an albino male deer. It was a white hart. And he said, "Don't harm a hair on his back. We'll catch him. We'll make him the palace pet." And he took off riding as fast as he could. And I know that you know that King Arthur was much faster than all the other huntsmen with him. And soon he completely outran them. He left them way behind, and the white hart led him deeper and deeper into the forest, deeper and deeper into the forest. And then the white hart was gone. And when King Arthur turned to go back to where the castle was, he'd been going this way and that way, and it was cloudy. It was hard to tell what direction to go in to get back to the castle. And the forest, instead of becoming more familiar, was becoming more strange. And then when he came up to this body of water he'd never seen of or even heard of, he knew he was lost. And he just sat there on his horse, looking at the water, looking at the stumps around the outside of this big pond. There was a stump on the other side. It looked so strange. He thought his eyes were tricking him. It looked like it was a knight on a horse, and then it was moving, it was moving. It was a knight on a horse. It was a knight on a horse, and it was riding around, the knight in full armor. And the knight rode around on his horse, rode up to Arthur, drew his sword and said, "Prepare to meet your death, Arthur." And Arthur said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Sir Gromer." And Arthur, of course, didn't have his knights. He didn't have his armor. He didn't have Excalibur, his sword. It was back at the castle. And he said, "So you're Sir Gromer, you're going to kill an unarmed man?" Well, everybody knew, and certainly Sir Gromer knew, that that was against their rules of honor as a knight. And so Sir Gromer said, "Oh, you're going to play that game? Okay. You agree to meet me here in a year and a day. You agree on your word as a knight and a king. I'm putting a riddle to you now. If you come back with a one true answer to the riddle, your life will be yours. Anything but the one true answer, and your life will be no more." Arthur loved riddles. He said, "Yes, I agree." He said, "On my word as a knight and a king. What's the riddle?" "The riddle is this. What does woman want more than anything else?" "What kind of riddle is that?" said Arthur. "A year and a day," said Sir Gromer, and off he rode. When King Arthur got back to the castle, he went up to his wife, the beautiful and wise Queen Guinevere. He didn't want her to worry about the danger he was in, so he didn't tell her about the riddle or Sir Gromer. He just said to her, he said, "What do you want, my wife, my love, my queen? What do you want more than anything else in the world?" And she said, "Oh, my king," she said, "my love, more than anything, I want peace and prosperity for England." And Arthur thought, "Whoa, that was easy." But he thought he'd just make sure, and he started asking other women in the castle. The first one he bumped into as he was walking down the halls, it was a young unmarried woman. He said, "What do you want, woman? What do you want, maiden, more than anything else in the world?" And she said, "Oh, my king," she said, "I cannot tell you." "Oh, yes, you can," he said, "and you will." "Must I?" she said. "Yes, you must." And she said, "Your Majesty, what I've always wanted more than anything else in the world was to be your queen." And she was so embarrassed, she just ran off. And Arthur said to himself, maybe that wasn't it. And he started asking every woman in the castle, and every woman had a different answer. When his wife, Queen Guinevere, saw him asking all the women this question, she said, "Why don't you give great blank books to all of your knights, and as they go on their quest and adventures, whenever they see a woman, they can ask the question and write the answer down?" So Arthur gave great blank books to all of his knights, and as they went on their quest and adventures, whenever they saw a woman, they'd ask the question and write the answer down. Months later, one of his knights was riding miles from the castle over the hills, and he saw these three Oh, he went closer to them. They were not women, but they were little girls. He said, well, they're girls. I'll ask them. And he got off his horse. He said, little girls, what do you want more than anything else in the world? And the first little girl said, oh, I want to be a princess with a gown of silk woven through with gold and silver thread and a golden crown with jewels. And the second little girl said, I want to be a knight with armor and a sword. Woo, woo. And the third little girl said, I'm hot. I want to go swimming. And he wrote the answers down. And a year and a day went by like that, and it was time for Arthur to go meet Sir Gromer again. He took all the books with all of the answers. He'd read through all of them, and not one of them had the ring of truth to it. But he took them all up on his horse to go meet Sir Gromer in that place in the dark part of the forest. He got to the part of the forest that was strange. He wasn't quite sure where he was or quite how to find the body of water when Arthur heard a sound. He could not tell what it was or where it was coming from. Arthur got up his horse. He tied up his horse. Arthur! He went in the direction of the sound. He saw this shape in red. It was a person. And as he walked around, he saw it was a woman. But oh, her hair was matted and tangled, and she hadn't brushed her teeth in months, and her clothes were hanging off her. They were just rotting off her body, and she smelled. Arthur! My lady, he said, how do you know my name? Never mind. I also know you're going to meet Sir Gromer with all these answers to the riddle he put to you. How do you know this? Never mind. I also know what will happen to you if you don't have the one true answer. How do you know all of this? Never mind. I also know the one true answer. Oh, you know the one true answer? Well, what is it? What is it? What is it? I'm going to tell you for nothing? No, he said. I'll give you whatever you want. Oh. Whatever I want? Yes, he said, on my word as a knight and a king, whatever you want. Well, I'll tell you then, she said. And he came up, and she told him. And he said, that's it. And he ran for his horse. That's it, and nothing for me. Oh, no, of course. I'll give you gold, I'll give you silver, whatever you want. I want none of your gold and none of your silver. What I want is to be married to your most brave and handsome knight. Oh, said Arthur, I could never do that. So much for the word of a knight and a king. And Arthur realized he'd given his word. He said, of course, I'm so sorry, my lady, of course. But wait. If this answer you gave me is not if this answer I gave you is not the one true answer, you owe me nothing. But if it is, you know what you must do. Arthur rode his horse, and after a while he found the body of water, and there was Sir Gromer sitting and waiting on his horse. Gromer said, Arthur, do you have the answer? And Arthur said, Gromer, he said, how much time do you have? I have all day. So Arthur took out the first book. He opened it up. He read the first answer, and Gromer shook his head no. Arthur went through every book. He turned every page. He read every answer. And at every answer, Sir Gromer shook his head no. Arthur got to the last book. He turned the last page. He read the last answer. Gromer shook his head no. Arthur closed the book. Gromer started drawing his sword. Wait, said Arthur, I got one more. What woman wants more than anything else is to be able to make her own choice. My sister, said Gromer, my sister, Lady Ragnell, blast her, she told you that, blast her. And he rode off in a rage. And Arthur went, oh. And then Arthur went, oh. When Arthur got back to the castle, everybody was in the great hall. They were having a wonderful time, talking and eating, and some of them were singing, and there were musicians playing. And then their king was announced, and they all turned to look at their beloved king. But when they saw the expression on their face, they all fell silent, and the music stopped playing. And Arthur walked through the middle of the hall, not looking one way or the other, until he came to his own chambers and collapsed in front of the fire. His wife, Queen Guinevere, followed him in. She said, oh, my king, my lord, what is wrong? I can't tell you. If you can't tell me, your wife, then who can you tell? So finally, King Arthur told her. He told her about the riddle. He told her about Sir Gromer and the danger on his life. He told her about Lady Ragnell and about what he had to do now. All the knights and ladies, they were crowded around the door listening to the story, and the knights that were already married were so grateful to their wives, and the ones that were not married were kind of slinking away, all except for Arthur's most brave and handsome knight. His name was Sir Gawain. Sir Gawain went right in. He got on his knees, said, "My lord, my king, I will marry the woman." "Oh, no," said Arthur. "No, it's not for me. It's not for you. This is for England, and I know you know that." And Arthur did know that. And so Sir Gawain and Arthur got on their horses and went out to collect Lady Ragnell. And everybody else started getting ready for the wedding feast. They got the cooks cooking, and they set the tables, and they got the musicians, and they got the priest, and they kept running to the windows to see who'd be the first one to see this Lady Ragnell. "They're coming," somebody said, and they ran to the windows. And when they saw her come out on the back of Gawain's horse, when they saw her face as one, they all went, "Oh!" All except for Queen Guinevere, who went right out and escorted Lady Ragnell into the great hall. And there was the priest, and there was Sir Gawain, and there was Lady Ragnell. And he did the ceremony and declared them husband and wife. And the food was laid out, and the musicians started playing, but nobody in the room had the stomach to eat or the heart to dance, and they all just went off to their places of sleep, leaving King Arthur, Queen Guinevere, Sir Gawain, and Lady Ragnell alone in the great hall. Queen Guinevere escorted Lady Ragnell to the wedding chamber and gave her a kiss on each cheek. King Arthur felt so awful, all he could do was give Sir Gawain a wordless hug and left him. And when Sir Gawain got to the door of his wedding chamber, he could see that his new wife, Lady Ragnell, was already in the bed with the covers over her and a candle burning on the night table. Gawain went in, he blew the candle out, he got into the bed beside her, he pulled the blankets up, he turned his back to her and curled up to go to sleep. When from the darkness of the wedding chamber from his bed he heard Lady Ragnell's voice say, "Gawain, what about my wedding kiss?" "Oh yes," said Gawain, "your wedding kiss." And Gawain turned and he kissed her. And then there was something moving in the bed. He couldn't tell what it was. He jumped out of the bed, he lit the candle, and there, sitting on the edge of the bed, was the most beautiful woman Gawain had ever seen. And he said, "Who are you? And where's my wife?" And she said, "Oh, Gawain," she said, "I am your wife. I am Lady Ragnell. And by agreeing to marry me, by marrying me, and by giving me the wedding kiss, you've broken the spell that my brother Sir Gromer laid on me years ago, turning me into the monster you just saw." And Gawain went, Oh, wait, Gawain," she said, "but the spell is now broken only halfway, for now I'll be beautiful by night when we share a wedding bed, and ugly by day when we go out amongst the people. Or I'll be beautiful by day when we go out amongst the people, and ugly by night when we share a wedding bed. The choice, Gawain, is yours." And Gawain said, "Oh, no, no," he said, "oh, no, the choice is yours." Oh, Gawain," said Lady Ragnell, "oh, Gawain, by giving me my one true choice, you have broken the spell forever. Now I will be beautiful by day and by night." And so she was. And so Sir Gawain and Lady Ragnell lived peacefully and happily ever after.